Hi YouTube, my name's Alan and I've been asked by some friends if I would like to do a little bit about my life. Now, I don't class my life as exciting, but who knows? Let's hope you guys find it interesting at least. I'm registered blind. I live in the UK, in the northeast part of the UK, although I wasn't born here in the northeast. I was born in Milton Keynes back in 1971. Now, what happened to me is I got CMV, cyclomegalovirus. I hope I said that right. Anyway, my mum didn't know that she was carrying CMV at the time because there wasn't the tests or the scans around at the time like there are now. They wasn't as detailed as they are now. So they didn't know if I had any conditions, and the pregnancy was going okay as far as she could tell. When she got to, I think it was about 6 months into, maybe 5 months into the pregnancy, she got a thing called preeclampsia. I don't know a great deal about preeclampsia, but I do know that your blood pressure can go through the roof. Pregnant women's blood pressure can go through the roof. So they rushed her into hospital, into Aylesbury, because it was getting dangerously high. And I do know that it can cause problems with the baby as well as the mum. Excuse me. So she went into hospital, had barrages of tests, and they gave her lots of different drugs. This is hearsay, not what I know. This is what I've been told. They gave her lots of different drugs. Now those drugs apparently calmed the preeclampsia down. So she managed to go near enough full term with me, as far as I'm aware. I was born a healthy baby, bouncing baby boy at the age of the weight of about 7 pounds 4 ounces, I think. So the thing was, when my mum was handed me, as soon as I was born, my mum instantly said there's something wrong with his eyes. Now they turned around, the paediatricians turned around and said, no, there's nothing wrong with his eyes, and they looked in my eyes. Now, okay, all my other tests that I went through, hearing tests, sight tests, everything seemed to go okay. But when I got to about 2 years old, my mum found that I was searching for things on the floor with my hands rather than using my eyes. So again, she took me back to the doctors. They, at 3 years old, then sent me off to hospital, and they did tests after tests. Now, every week for about 3 years, I went through blood tests, I went through scans, I went through all kinds of stuff. And eventually they came up and said that they've worked it out. They found out that I had CMV at the time my mum was carrying me. Now, 80% of the world's population carry CMV. But there is that minority of people, that or women, that don't carry CMV, and in their pregnancy they do suddenly contract this virus. And then what happens is the virus gets into the bloodstream of the mum, gets into the bloodstream of the baby, and it all depends how advanced the baby is, as far as I know, how advanced the baby is, to how it can affect the baby. Some cases can be very, very severe. Some babies can be born okay, although they're still carrying CMV. Well, I was one of the unlucky ones, but I class myself as lucky because I've seen a lot of stories out there of CMV babies, and some of them are tragic and they are really, really sad. But they just get on with life, and so do their mums and their fathers. Now, what happened with me is the virus got into my eyes, and it grew on the back of the optic, on the back of the retina, which is the part where the light hits the back of the eye. And then what it does is, when it hits the back of the eye, it then turns it into all its colours and sends it down the optic nerve into your brain. Well, for me, it got on the back of my retina, and it caused what they call pepper pot scarring, which is, if you look at the top of a pepper pot, there it is. Now, what happened then is the virus then started to move from the eyes as it was doing its growing. It grew into the optic nerve. And around about that time, they don't know, because I've never had any scans, they say that it can go into the brain and cause calcifications. I do suffer with mental illness. I do suffer with what I would class as mood swings, terrible mood swings. I also suffer with extreme headaches. So whether there's calcifications there, we don't know. I've never had any scans. It's never been offered to me. So I don't know. Now, the time that the virus was growing down the optic nerve and into, or possibly the brain, my mum was then rushed into hospital with preeclampsia. So they believe, the experts, I was told, this was back in the early 80s, my mum was told that the virus was halted because of the cocktail of medications that they gave her while she was in hospital. So I class myself as lucky, because a lot of babies that are born with this, as I say, are born pretty poorly. And, you know, life can be shortened, they can end up with all kinds. I think the main function, or the main part of CMV is that it causes hearing problems. So I am starting to suffer with hearing problems. Now, I don't know if that's through loud music abuse or whether it's part of CMV. I'm not sure. But I have been told that it can cause other problems. I've never ever been tested for them, so I really don't know. It can cause bowel problems, it can cause stomach problems. Because what happens is the virus can get into the brain, and then it can then spread down the spinal column, apparently, and into the stomach. I'm no medical expert. I know very little about CMV, although I have it. There's not a lot of information on the interweb about it. So the internet doesn't tell you a great deal about it. And I don't think there's that many doctors or scientists that are actually studying this. Although I do believe there is a vaccine coming out at some point to hopefully protect mothers and unborn babies with this disease. I went to a school in Milton Keynes. It was called Oliver Wells, and it was a school for children with disabilities. But first of all, I went to a school very, very young, Home Chase. And at Home Chase, it had a unit for children with disabilities. And I went there first. And then I moved on to Oliver Wells, which was a school for children with all kinds of disabilities. Every disability you can imagine was there. It was a fantastic school, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The people there, the teachers there, even the pupils were amazing. That was possibly some of the best times of my life was at the school. They did try to move me into mainstream school with a helper. It didn't work. With me and my bad temper, I lost my temper. Because I got frustrated, because they were basically saying to me that my eyesight problem was not an issue, but I found it was. They was asking me to read things off the boards. Well, I don't have central vision. Well, I didn't at the time have central vision. I had side vision, so of course if I had to look out the side of my eyes, I did have glasses, but they did okay, but they didn't do a great deal. I had enough to get around. I had useful vision, as they call it. So that didn't work, so they then obviously put me back into my school, my Oliver Wells, and I stayed there till I was 17, sorry. And then I went to a college called Queen Alexandra College for the Blind in Birmingham. Again, had a fantastic time, really loved it there. That year was amazing, absolutely amazing. I met some really fantastic people there. Sadly, I only keep in contact with a few of them, but if any of them get to watch this and they remember me, then please get in contact with me if you can. That would be great. Leave some messages in the comments, and maybe we can hook up. Yeah, so that would be really, really cool. Some of the strangest things that happened to me while I was at school, well, that was pretty interesting. We used to at school, I don't know if you remember back in the 70s and 80s, those of you that are old enough, we had to have a medical once a year. The doctor used to come in. And this was the early 80s. Now this is how much ignorance there was about visual impairment even back then. This doctor came in, and she did all her examinations, looked in my eyes, and goodness knows what else. And then she turned around to me and she said, well, she didn't say this to me, she sent a letter home to my mum. And she said, in the letter, it turned around and said, we've done a full examination, Alan is a healthy boy, but we don't think he has a visual impairment. We think he's thick. That may be true, but that's not the sort of thing you send in a letter home to your parents. My mum never acted on it, which was a real shame. My mum never acted on it, and that kind of hurt, because I found out in later years that that's what was said. And yeah, okay, I'm not the brightest spark in the box. I can accept that and appreciate that. But to be told that by a medical professional, not the greatest thing in the world. But there you go. So I spent a lot of my time at the school. They did struggle to teach me because, as I say, they had a lot of children with different disabilities, so they had to try and learn a way of teaching me with visual impairment. And again, back in the early 80s, the facilities weren't there that I'm sure are there today to teach children with visual impairment. So that was quite cool. I think I went to Oliver Wells 1981, and I left there 1989, and then went off to Queen Alexandra for a year. I was meant to do a 2-year course, but I stayed there only 1 year. And I met Sarah, my wife, who we're still married. Don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know how she puts up with me, but there you go, we are. So yeah, that's the story up till now, up till I left college. Right, so going briefly back to my younger days, I had a really dear friend, David, and we got on like a house on fire. And he didn't worry about my visual impairment at all, although it's pretty obvious that I had a visual impairment at the time. And so what happened was my mum and dad decided to move from where we were, and me and David lost contact. And the sad thing about that is we never really gained contact back again. But as I say, he was very accepting of my visual impairment and didn't really see it as a problem. But then, as I say, after college, what happened is we got married. We moved into a flat together, and 6 years later, my son came along, Ryan, who's now 23 and has married a lady in the Philippines who has not long given birth to a baby boy and our first grandchild, and he's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We haven't been able to get out to see him because obviously the coronavirus and all that that's going on at the moment. But hopefully this year we'll get out there, go and visit him. And the sad thing is Ryan had to come back and sort out a few things and got stuck here. So he's still back here in the UK. I'll put a link on here to his story as well, because his story is going to really unfold as time goes on when he goes out to the Philippines, which hopefully wouldn't be too long. Right, going back to my story. So then basically I didn't really pay any attention to see him. I didn't even know what the name of my condition was. Didn't have a clue. And one day I went to the doctors and asked them, and they told me, and I did a bit of research, which was, the internet was basics then. That was about 96, 97. Around about the time Ryan was born. And I just didn't know. There was very little information out there. And I think, to be fair, there still is not a lot of information out there regarding this terrible virus. As I say, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm still here. I'm nearly 50 years old, which is pretty good for someone who's suffered from CMV. Although I've not had it as bad as some babies or some children out there. Is it active? I don't know. I've heard so many conflicting stories. It can be active, it may not be active. Don't worry, you can't catch it, not on camera anyway. But it's one of those things. Very little known about it, and I'm hoping that someday, someone will come up and say to me, well, this is what it is, and it can do this, or we can do that for it. So, winding on to around about, now where are we? Around about 2008, I think it was 2008. My sight had been steadily getting worse from 1997, 1998. It slowly started getting worse to the point where it was that bad. I went to an optician, because someone said to me, when you go to an optician, they can tell you if there's anything other going on in there. So I went to an optician. He said, oh, you've got cataracts. And I thought, well, I'm only 40 years old. This is 10 years ago. And he said, yeah, but you got to remember your eyes are quite different from other people's. There's a lot going on. So I went to the hospital and they said, yep, you've got cataracts. We can remove them. No problem at all. It's just 2 minor operations to have it done. Okay, cool. 6 weeks later, I get called in to have the first one done, which was this eye here, my left eye, right eye as you're looking at it. Now, that went successfully. It went okay. I got home. I presumed that I would, because I'm pretty much total, and I was near enough total then, and I presumed that I would get my eyesight back to how it was when I was a kid, because it was the cataracts that were growing. So on that morning, full of excitement, the next morning after the operation, which was done under local anaesthetic, sat down in front of the telly, said to my son, put the telly on. Right, this is the first time I've ever seen the telly for years. I'd had the patch on for 24 hours, which they recommended, took it off. I was gutted. I'd been hit in the face with a shovel. I could not see any difference. Now, I presumed it may have been because there may have been swelling in there or something going on because of the operation. So I thought, okay, well, we'll give it a couple of days to settle down. It didn't improve. It did not improve at all. And 2 weeks later, I had to go back to the hospital for a follow-up check. I sat down with the surgeon and said, look, you know, I sat down in front of the telly expecting big things, and I took the patch off. Nothing, didn't improve after a few days. And the surgeon turned around to me and said, well, it won't. And I said, what do you mean it won't? And she said, haven't you not been told that you have pepper pot scarring? And I went, yes, I do. I have been told. And she said, yeah, but the problem with your eyes, you've got the eyes of an 80-year-old, even though you're only 40. They've doubled their age. And the problem is the scarring's thickened on the back of the retina. It's nothing to do with the cataracts. The cataracts are really small. The actual retina is the thing that's being swallowed up, if you like, by the scarring. So it was a bereavement in theory. I was seriously mortified. I cannot tell you how that hurt. That hurt like you wouldn't believe, because I presumed, okay, I'd never have 20/20 vision because I was never born with 20/20 vision because of the condition. But I thought at least I'd be able to get enough sight back that I could get around without using a white cane or a guide dog. No, didn't work. So they asked me if I wanted the second one doing. Well, for obviously health reasons, because obviously cataracts, if you leave them too long, can turn cancerous. That's after many, many years. So I decided to have the other eye operated on, which was hell. And I mean, it was hell. I went down to theatre. They did all the drops before I went down there, and they put when I got into the room just before they take you into the operating theatre. Again, remember, you're not under general anaesthetic, you're under a local anaesthetic. They put the needles in the eye. Sorry to be graphic here. They put the needles in the eye to numb the eye, to stop you feeling anything. Now, just before the operation, I did turn around to the surgeon when she came around and said, look, my eyes do move about. I cannot control them. There's nothing I can do. Not a problem. She said, we can stop them moving. Don't worry about it. Cool. Went down, full of, I was a bit anxious, but thought, okay, this is fine. Had the anaesthetics in the eye, went into the operating theatre, everything was going okay. The surgeon said, right, can start the operation now. Bang. She stuck the knife into the eye, and I tell you what, the pain was horrendous. And my heart rate went up like you wouldn't believe. And she said, you felt that, didn't you? And I went, yes, I did. I said, I really felt that. And she said, I cannot give you any more anaesthetic. She went off, she came out, she said, I cannot give you any more anaesthetic in your eye. The reason being is, she said, you've had the maximum dose that we can give you. She said, what do you want us to do, stop or continue? Well, in hindsight, I should have stopped, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. So I said to her, no, look, continue, just get it over and done with. So they did, and it was, what should have been a 15-minute operation took half an hour. And honestly, that was half an hour of absolute agony. So I came out of there, then I went home. Again, the next day, took the patch off. Now, this is in my right eye, you're on your left side, and it was my bad eye to start with. This is the one that got really affected by the CMV. So it didn't make any difference at all, which I didn't expect it would. Again, all went okay, went back to the hospital, everything was okay, so that was that. I moved to Northumberland about 5 years ago, just over 5 years ago now. Where were we? No, 6 years ago now. Moved to Northumberland 6 years ago, and I managed to go to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I saw another doctor there, and he turned around and said to me, "You do realise that I've been suffering with really bad eyes, dry eyes, really dry." And he said, "You do realise that your eyes are not able to make any oils to lubricate them?" No, didn't realise that. So there's one condition, as well as the CMV. And then I found out I also had a few other conditions as well, 2 more conditions. Macular degeneration and I can't think of the name of the other one.
Retinopathy.
Retinopathy, thank you, Ryan. Ryan's my cameraman, by the way. Retinopathy. And so I've got 4 eye conditions going on. So it's a regime of putting drops in my eyes throughout the day, drops in the eyes throughout the night, and also oils, creams in my eyes to keep them lubricated throughout the day and at night. So it's a bit of a chore, but it's one of those things that has to be done, because if I don't, the headaches are horrendous. But there you go. So my story is, I'm a survivor. I think I'm a fighter. I don't take no nonsense. I get on with life as best as I can. And I've started this channel up because I'm hoping to go places. The Philippines for a start, to see my grandson, which I'm going to document all the way. From leaving my house, flying out there, and flying, seeing our little grandson, visiting Ryan and his new wife, which we've not met Albie yet, not met her at all yet. And Ryan, to be honest, has only spent 6 weeks with her in total. But again, follow the link below, go and watch his story. Honestly, there's going to be a lot of, when he gets out to the Philippines, there's going to be a lot going on out there. So there's going to be lots of stories to follow there as well as mine. And and don't forget, like and subscribe, please, because it helps us, and hopefully it'll be all interesting stuff as well. So please do that. It'd be great if you could. Also, I'm a tattoo fanatic as well. I love tattoos, so I'm going to be documenting tattoos as well. So I'm going to have a few extra tattoos put on. So hopefully you'll be able to come along with me on that little journey as well, and see what I actually have and what I'm going to have done as well. Someone said to me ages ago, "Why the heck do you have tattoos? You're a blind person." Self-expression. And when the guy who did my tattoos was doing them, he asked me as well. He said, he said, "I'm glad you're having tattoos, because I say it is a self-expression, and also," he said, I want to know why you're having it done and what you get out of it." And I turned around and told him, I said, "Every time you put the needle into my skin, I can trace it in my mind, so I actually know what the tattoos look like in my head." So that's why I have them done. And also, because I suffer with depression as well, I find a tattoo is a way of release. It's a way of, it sounds strange, but it's a way of getting rid of that built up inner depression, if you like. And it helps. Some people unfortunately go down the route of self-harming. I suppose I do self-harm with a needle and ink, but it's who I am. Never had any piercings. Nah, not brave enough for that. Although, no, I've never had piercings, and I don't think I ever would. Tattoos is about my limit. But so hopefully you'll follow us on that journey as well. And the reason I say follow us when we go out to the Philippines, I'm hoping to visit other countries out there with Ryan as well. We're hoping to go over to, we want to go to Korea as well, go to Korea and try some of the foods out there, because I haven't told you yet, I have a food channel as well. I only just started up, there's only a few videos on there, but we're hoping to try different foods out in the Philippines, Korea, and in the UK as well. And of course, when I taste test, I don't know what I'm eating. As Ryan says, as Alan says, listening to Ryan grinning in the background. Yeah. So this could be a journey of hell on the food channel. So if you'd like to follow that one as well, I'll get Ryan to put a link at the bottom of that as well. So that'd be cool. But hopefully you'll follow us, you'll come with us on this journey. wherever we end up and wherever we go. So thanks for watching. Hope it hasn't been too long, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'll try and upload not as many as I can. I don't want to bore you, but I'll try and upload different stories about my life and stuff like that have gone on so far. There's lots to tell about the days when I used to spend as a childhood on building sites with my dad. My dad was a builder, and yeah, I spent days on building sites. Holloway Prison in London. I wasn't in there. It's a women's prison. Helping him and all kinds of things. That's back in the day when health and safety was out the window. Can you imagine a blind person on a building site? Wasn't the most sensiblest of things, but there you go, we've all done it. Right guys, take it easy, be safe, and we will speak to you soon. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Catch you later.